WheelchairDNA, it's Cosmo here. Welcome back. Travel 101. This is the third video out of 11-ish that we're going to have. Last time we talked about the destination, choosing the destination and what to look for in a good destination. Basically, flat terrain, good public transit, good weather. You don't want snow or rain, and you don't want it too hot or too cold. And then, of course, that it has what you want, what you're interested in, whether it's the food, the culture, the history, etc. And public transit. Did I mention that already? It doesn't matter, because this video is about something else. Hotels. This is going to be a pretty big video. Very important. Very, very important. Depending on where you go, you'll have more or less options. That's quite the truism, but it's worth saying. So, first thing I just want to get out of the way, hostels. They're way cheaper, but they're also way less accessible. And I would argue you just don't want to do it. Unless you're with a big group of people and you all get the same room together. Hostels are like a dormitory in a way, where you get a bunk bed and there's someone above you and there's people next to you and it's all around. Basically, the hostel, you don't get a room and you don't even get a private bathroom. You share a bathroom and you share the bedroom and you're just renting out the bed. It's nice. It's a great way to meet people, everything like that, but less privacy, less accommodations. And if you have an accident, if something goes wrong, then it's kind of like, you know, you don't have the right space to take care of yourself. It's possible. I've done it. But the problem was that the bathroom, so this was a hostel in Sweden, and to get down the stairs into the kind of hallway where all the beds and bedrooms are, they had this lift thing that you would get on and then it would slide you down. And then when I'm down there, everything's fine. I got the bed, I got whatever. But the bathroom had a bump to get up into it. Super weird. Well, and only for the men's, not the women's. And then the showers, of course, there's no shower chair. So I just showered in the wheelchair. It was really weird. It was really weird. And so the next day I moved to a hotel. It just wasn't for me. Maybe if you're with a bunch of friends and stuff, maybe. And it is very, very affordable to do hostels, but I would say just don't do it unless you really, really, really want to. Now, to start out, I use Booking.com. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. It's just I'm familiar with it. I use it, and so now it's the thing I use because I'm familiar with it. Sometimes I'll use other websites. Sometimes I'll go directly to the hotel's website because they offer better deals. That's very often the case. So make sure to look at the hotel's website itself before you buy it on Booking.com. Hey everybody, this is Cosmo a few days later. I am interjecting this quick little bit here because I figured it's much easier to actually show you what I'm talking about for Booking.com. When you are searching for a hotel, this is a hotel in Barcelona, and it does have accessible hotel rooms. However, when you come down here to see the hotel rooms, most of them, or almost all of them, will say the entire unit is wheelchair accessible. This is not true. I don't know why this is put here. I've messaged the hotels themselves, and they tell me directly it's not an accessible room. So this right here is not actually true. However, they do have accessible hotels, as we can see here, but you're not able to actually buy it. We have a double room, a twin room, superior double room, and single room, superior single room. Okay, and that's it. You don't see anything about actually being accessible for an accessible room. And oftentimes it is a separate room. Sometimes the hotels don't put it up because they want the hotels to be booked directly with them rather than being open to everybody. Switching tabs here, this is a hotel in New York. Here you can see they actually do specify mobility and hearing accessible with roll-in shower or hearing accessible. So these would be the rooms that you actually book, and you should be guaranteed to get an accessible room because it is literally the accessible room. However, you notice that this one is not called accessible in the title, but it still says entire unit wheelchair accessible. So this is where Booking.com is unreliable with the accessibility. However, let's say we just go to the search, and I'm going to show you now the filters. Usually I use just wheelchair accessible. It's in my previous filters, but when you scroll way far down, I think they're the last ones. Yeah, they're the last ones, and you have property accessibility and then room accessibility. You'll notice that when you get more and more specific, there's fewer and fewer. And that might not be because there are only 4 hotels in New York City with an emergency cord in the bathroom. It might actually be that there's only 4 who took the time to say that they do have the emergency cord in the bathroom. So it's much better to go with the entire unit wheelchair accessible filter, or if you can find the filter for wheelchair accessible in general, this will give you many more options to look at and then message them and find what you need. So what I do is I'll find 5 or more hotels. We'll talk about where to find them and what are some good locations for a hotel. But I get 5 or more hotels, and I do the free cancellation one day until the reservation. So if the reservation starts on February 20th, I can cancel it for free up until February 19th. So I'll do that for 5 or more hotels. And then I'll message them and I'll ask them, do you have an accessible room? I'm in a wheelchair. I cannot walk. I need this much space, whatever it is, in inches or centimeters, to get through the doorway and to get into the bathroom. Do you have an accessible bed? Do you have an accessible room? Or just is the room big enough to be accessible, if that makes sense? And in Japan, they call it barrier-free. So depending on where you go, wheelchair accessible might be different. It might not be actually called wheelchair accessible. This is something that you can utilize AI for. You can say, I'm going to Japan. I need a wheelchair accessible room. How do I communicate this? And it'll give you a little blurb, little thing that says, I need a barrier-free room, blah, blah, blah. And then you can just copy and paste it and put it in. With Booking.com, you can message the hotel. And so that's what I like about it. The messaging system is pretty good. So I can message 5, 6, 7 hotels and get a response and figure out which ones are going to be the best for accessibility. That's how I do it. That's how I highly recommend doing it. Because if you book one hotel and you message them and they say, no, it's not accessible, then you have to cancel it and find another. It's better to find them all at once and then cancel them as you go. Now, let's talk about where is the ideal location for a hotel. This goes back to the destination. Where are you and what do you care about? Do you care about food? Did you rent a car? Or are you using public transit? If you're using public transit, which I highly recommend, what you're going to want to search first is, if it's a train line, what is the newest train line in city? Or what's the most accessible train line in whatever the city is? You can do this with AI. You can probably just do it with a natural, normal internet search. I remember in Taiwan, because I was there so recently, the red line is the newest. If you're able to find anybody on Reddit who is either in a wheelchair living in that city, or it doesn't have to be Reddit, by the way. Reddit is just one really good source of kind of community knowledge. And you can find people who live there and see which train lines that they know are more accessible, or just people in general who might know which train lines are the newer ones, and so on. With that said, being closer to a train station or a bus station is key. You want to look for two things. The first thing is, if your hotel is further away than the main attractions, the main downtown of the city, you want to be near a public transit station, bus, tram, train, underground, whatever, that will get you to the main city fastest. You might want to actually just have a hotel near the main attraction that you're intending to be around. When you get out of your hotel, you want to just go out and you want to be there. When traveling, it's among the worst things to have to take a 20-minute plus transit ride to get into the city or to get where you want to go every day, because then it also makes getting back to your hotel hard if you have to go back in the middle of the day. Now that's 20-30 minutes there, 20-30 minutes back, plus the time you spent getting in there. So it's like an hour and a half gone from your day just to go back to the hotel because you forgot something. So it is very nice if you can get a hotel more near the attraction. And that's it. Okay. So to recap, and I will be fast, hostels. I don't recommend doing that. You can, but it's almost not worth it by all accounts. Being near a transit station that gets you where you think you will want to go is a good location for a hotel. Or being near where you will want to go is a good location for the hotel. I use Booking.com. The filters are not perfect. Sometimes I don't even use them. The filters for accessibility. Sometimes they're just not that good. So buy as many hotels as you can that have free cancellation. Just get whatever room you can, the cheap single person, double person room, and then message the hotel and ask them if the room can be switched to an accessible room, or ask them for measurements or photos of the entrance, if there's an elevator, the entrance to the hotel room, and then not only the entrance to the hotel room, but the inside of the hotel room as well, the entrance to the bathroom, and so on. And then looking on Google Maps to make sure that the hotel, at least from the outside, is accessible, that you can get into it. And a little bonus tip here. When I was traveling in Japan, and even in Italy, I could not find an accessible hotel. Another thing, actually, sorry, I keep going. Airbnb or VRBO, any type of person-to-person renting out their house. Airbnbs are more difficult to find them to be accessible because it is a person's house. And houses, almost everywhere you go, have a couple steps to get in, and they're not really accessible. I don't know what it is, but most designs for most houses are just not accessible. So it's pretty hard to find an accessible Airbnb or VRBO. I did stay in an Airbnb in Italy, and luckily the Airbnb owner was really nice. He picked us up from the airport, helped drive us around sometimes, and was very, very accommodating. And the Airbnb was mostly accessible. Like I could get around the rooms with the wheelchair, but I couldn't get into the bathroom. That's the thing. A lot of bathrooms in houses, even modern day houses in America, or even some hotels, like in Japan, the bathroom door is the problem. It's just too narrow. Even my wheelchair is very, very narrow, but just not enough still. So, what do you do when you encounter these situations? You're in an Airbnb in Italy, and it's amazing, and it's beautiful, and I loved it, but I couldn't get into the bathroom. I'm in a hotel, in Japan, and the barrier-free room was not available, or they didn't have one. And I couldn't find any other hotels in the area that I wanted. So I decided I'll just figure it out with the one that's half the price, and I'll save my money and, buy something from 7-Eleven. What do? You get another chair, whatever it be. You get some other chair and you put it on the other side of the door. You transfer from the wheelchair through the doorway that's too narrow, and you get on that other chair. Now, if you're lucky, the bathroom will be very small, which means from that chair, you can actually reach the sink, and then you can transfer onto the toilet, and then you can even get into the tub to take a shower. Because if the bathroom's so small, you won't need to scooch around. If the bathroom is very small and you do need to scooch around, then, well, it just depends on what the bathroom setup is. You get off of your wheelchair into this other chair, and maybe you have another chair, and you just kind of hop around. Or if you can go from the chair to the toilet, and then you move the chair over, and then you get back on the chair, and then you can go to the sink. Something like that. In Italy, the solution was a rolling chair, a tiny little I don't know why, but it was like a kid-size pink desk chair, and I just scooted myself on that through the bathroom. So, hotels. You can do it without them being accessible. You can do a hostel without it being accessible. I took a shower in the wheelchair. It was like a locker room shower, like a high school locker room, just open for anyone to see my naked butt just taking a shower in the wheelchair. It's possible. I didn't like it. I don't think many people would enjoy that or enjoy seeing that. Or you just get a room that's not accessible. As long as you can get into the hotel room, as long as the entrance to the hotel room is big enough for the wheelchair, most of the time you can figure it out from there. So that's it. There's a couple caveats at the end that I didn't plan for, so this video went a little bit longer. However, I think this information is very important because it gives you an idea of what it takes to find a hotel that's accessible, or what it takes to handle an inaccessible hotel. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and give me a big fat kiss. I'll see you in the next one.